to episode 172, season 3 of Red Wings Rant, where tirades and impassioned pleas for your Detroit Red Wings finally have a home. Today we've got Max Bultman helping us discuss or put the nail down on Lucas Raymond landing a job with the Detroit Red Wings. We're going to be talking about Joe Veleno. We've got our 8 defensemen that we're going to put in stone. We're ready to go. We're putting it in ink, I should say. We've got some discussions on Dekeyser and how well he's been playing so far for us in the preseason. We also get into Max Bultman and his job, and I go a little deep into the weeds of journalism. So I want you guys to strap in, check out that entire conversation. I will say, so far, it has been my favorite interview since the show began. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And as we keep rolling along, getting deeper into the regular season, we do want to have more guests. If you guys have somebody you want to see, just shout it out in the comments. If you check out past episodes, you see that I try to go across the board, whether it's an NHL pundit or if we're going local. But I will say again, Max is number one on my list so far. What else we have today is we're going to be doing our giveaway for our 2 Red Wings tickets. I want you guys to stick around so you will hear who won. And outside of that, I have to make my plea here. If you guys could, if you're watching on YouTube right now, hit that subscribe button. That's going to do us the most good so we can continue to do more giveaways. And same thing goes for you listening to the podcast. Of course, the subscription to the podcast does us a great deal of good. But if you guys could rate and review the podcast, every time I get a new review, we just see the numbers shoot up. And what we want to do is have more opportunities to do these Red Wing giveaways, more opportunities to have the likes of Max Bultman hang around with us and chat hockey. So if you guys like what you see today, you like what you hear, you like what you have been hearing, for us to do more, we need those subscriptions on YouTube. We need the ratings on Apple Podcasts. Probably you get sick of hearing it from anybody who's doing a podcast, but it does us the most good, and I'd greatly appreciate it. So with that, let's jump into the content. I want you guys to enjoy my conversation with the Athletic's Max Bultman. And if you are looking for an opportunity to get, I guess, a 30-day free trial with the Athletic, I have actually included in the YouTube description and the podcast description a link that will only work 5 times. First 5 people to get to that link, they will get 30-day free pass to the Athletic if you haven't subscribed yet. And also, if you just want to jump right in, you can head to the Athletic right now. They have a 50% off subscription promo that they're running right now, according to Max Bultman's latest article that you can find at _Bultman. So check all that fun stuff out. Listen to this interview. Hang around to find out who's winning our Red Wings tickets. Of course, we're going to make the announcement on social media as well, and notify person who won through DMs. But anyways, yeah, take a listen and enjoy the entire show here. I appreciate you guys coming around, and shoot, we'll see you on the tail end. He is a Michigan Wolverine, hockey show podcaster, Red Wings hockey writer, and came pre-equipped with not only one of the coolest names in sports writing, but could also double as his comic book superhero name. He is Max Bultman. Max, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. That's quite the intro. What's my superhero name going to be?
It's going to be
Boltman?
Yeah, Boltman. I was given
like
that
the Chargers mascot, the San Diego or the LA Chargers mascot, right?
Yeah, we could go in that direction. I was wondering too for the thumbnail for this episode if I'm gonna have to Photoshop that, which we'll have to get your approval. We'll see. We'll beef you up a little bit. We'll make sure that.
So that's good.
But yeah, how are you doing today, Max?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm getting over a little head cold, so that's been it's that time of year. So as we all get out into the world again, we bring a little bit of that in. So remembering what it feels like to be sick has not been that fun. But other than that, it's been pretty eventful. I mean, 5 preseason games in the last 6 days. So
yeah, I mean that would be a lot of work on its own. But yeah, I just really like the way you say that, and I'm kind of realizing I haven't really been sick in a long time. And of course, we've been stuck inside, so that helps. But Man, I feel for you, man. That that blows.
It's all
Um,
good. I'm just glad it's not, the six. So
yeah,
that
no, yeah, that could be worse. You're absolutely right. This is what my favorite segment is whenever we have a guest on the show. I do want to jump in and do icebreakers. So I've got three categories here for you, Max. I'm gonna let you pick which one you want to do, and I'll just read right through them. And I've got habits is one category. Halloween, since spooky season's here, and third category is podcast. Any of those sound easy or maybe more interesting to you?
Oh man, do I want to talk about habits, Halloween, or podcast? Which of those is going to get me in the least amount of trouble?
I've since they're my questions, I'll let you know I vetted them to make sure you're not going to get in any trouble.
Let's do Halloween. Let's get in the spirit.
All right, yeah, this one can't get you in trouble, I don't think. All right, so you forgot you forgot you had a costume party tonight. Starts in 10 minutes. You're in your apartment. You're in your house. What are you grabbing before you head out the door? Do you
This
already
is a
have a costume, or are you going to be putting some pieces of paper stapled to your shirt, kind of thing?
Well, so fortunately, I'm the worst Halloween costume planner ever. So this is actually how I approach every Halloween. And my go-to is my girlfriend and I will go, and she will wear a red dress and be like Miss Scarlet from Clue, and I will just wear all gray and be the lead pipe, and we'll be Miss Scarlet with the lead pipe.
Oh, that is genius.
And it's just all gray. I mean, it's easy money.
Yeah, I love that. I went as far as the night before I had a costume party. My wife was Mary Poppins, and not that this directly relates, but I slapped on a suit and slicked back my hair and just went as Walt Disney. So I was
That
like, all right,
that
I could
works
pull
for
this off.
sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
shave off the goatee, just go mustache. It works. It was
And
nice and
Walt
easy.
Disney and Mary Poppins were actually roommates for a couple of years.
What? Oh, see, there we go. Accidentally run into a perfect team costume. I think that was the year like the Tom Hanks movie came out, so I think I was rolling with that. But all right. Well, the other thing I like to do here, Max, is obviously you're here to talk Red Wings hockey. This is Red Wings Rant after all, but I myself was an aspiring journalist. It has since passed me by, so now I'm just an independent podcaster. But
I think that's journalism. Sorry to cut you off, but just
yeah,
I think you're doing journalism right now. So
it's as close as I think I could get right now. But I want to ask you about your career and where you're at, how you feel about it. But I I feel like I've I've gotten to the bottom of some people's, how did you get into this? So I don't just want to go through that. I think you probably have asked that or been answered Jesus answered that question enough. So I thought I'd kind of jump into more like the nitty gritty of how your job works right now.
yeah,
So I want to ask you, how do you balance that working relationship with, I mean, you've got to talk to Steve Eisman every now and then. How do you get those tough questions answered and still keep a relationship to where Steve still says, "Hey, Max," at the start of your press conference questioning?
yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the toughest thing that I've found about interviewing in general, especially when you're talking to someone who has an interest in oftentimes kind of not telling you everything they know, right? Like at
Right,
professional sports GMs and coaches, sometimes they don't want to necessarily let stuff out, and so there is a little bit of a process to kind of thinking of how to word your questions. And I always joke about this on Twitter after Eisman's press conferences. If people will tweet me like, oh, he didn't, he just said like no or yes, and that is true. And I've had to
right.
learn that you can't ask these yes or no questions to someone who is perfectly content to just say yeah. I did it the other day with Jeff Blashill. I asked him like, were there like one or two things that you told Philip Zadina in your exit interview last year that you wanted him to work on? And he just said yes. and so and so then you got to follow up, and you feel real stupid, right? And you're like, could you share them? And Jeff was nice enough to do that the other day. Steve sometimes will say no. Like I'll say, would you share? And he'll say no. It's like, okay. But no, I mean, like it's a process for sure. And like, I'm sure I annoy both of those guys from time to time with my questions. but it's part of the job, right? Like just as
Right.
much um, for them as it is like to have to kind of sit in front. And when you think about it, it is you put yourself in their shoes. I think it becomes very easy because it's like, okay, if someone were to sit me down after, in Blashill's case, every day of work and ask me about the things I did wrong and sometimes the things I did well, you would get rather annoyed with that person the
Yeah,
first week.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot of, I think, understanding there that goes into knowing what the situation is. And from the reverse, it's part of my job to know that a lot of times people aren't necessarily going to be thrilled to see me or thrilled to hear my question or whatever. And so you just really appreciate when they take you seriously, they respect, you know, that you're doing your job, and they answer the
Yeah.
question to whatever degree they can or are willing to. Obviously, we always love when they're willing to answer it in full, but it's a good question by you because to me it's one of the parts of the job that I think might seem really easy and really obvious. You're just asking people questions, but
Right.
um, there's a little bit of a process to figuring out how do I word this in a way that maybe doesn't um, it doesn't get the guard up, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny. I want to have you here to just talk Red Wings hockey, but now this is really like having a bunch of questions pop in my head. But like with what you just said, do you manage that with keeping to what your plan was going in, or do you hear like Art's question or Helene's question, and you want to try and throw it in a different way to get a better answer from them because it's something that's going to help you out, or
Both. And so like when I was in college, I went to Michigan. I worked at the Michigan Daily. We have an unbelievable base of alumni, right? Adam
yeah,
Schefter, Rich Eisen, Chris
oh
Burke,
yeah,
who's my coworker now. So many, Michael Rosenberg, Mark Snyder, just like an unbelievable set of Ken Davidoff, who works in the New York Post, like unreal journalists, and they come in. Bob Winowski from the Detroit News. I can probably go all day if you want.
right,
They'll come in and they'll give you little bits of advice. Nick Katsanika, and they'll tell you little things about how to do the job. And one of the ones that always stuck to me, I don't know I don't remember who it was, but they said like you got to have your questions, but you got to be prepared to go away from them. Like you have to listen during an interview. And it sounds like the most obvious thing in the world,
right,
and I'm still guilty of this to this day. It's so easy to go in with your little paper with 6 questions written down on it and say these are the 6 questions I'm going to ask. And I will when I go into an Eiserman press conference especially on Zoom when I'm at my own desk, I will write down like 3 questions that I'm going to ask. And most of the time, he will say something before it gets to my turn that I need to follow up on, and I have to because you can't ask that many questions.
right.
So I almost have to prioritize my questions. Which one of these can I bag, right? And so it's both. Like you got to listen actively and be prepared to follow up to something that he might have said in response to Helena, or something that he might have said in response to Ansar or whatever. And you want to still kind of know these are the things that I really wanted to come out of this knowing about. Now, one thing that I think, all of us as beat writers, like in some ways we're competing, right? We all want our
Right.
story to do well, but especially in a press conference setting, I've always felt like there is kind of there's a rhythm to, like, Helena often will go first in those settings, right? And she'll ask a lot of really important newsy questions at the beginning, and I do feel like sometimes I'm not the loudest. You could probably hear right now. I don't have the loudest voice, so especially when we're not in a Zoom setting, I'm almost always going last because I know I'm not going to win the battle for who can talk the loudest, right?
Yeah.
So I'm almost always going last, and I what I actually like about that is often get a lot of follow ups, and so I like that, and like we all use this stuff, right? Like it's not like I can use those answers or anything
Right.
like that, but I like to follow up because I just think like I always get that extra layer of insight that I want, and because I go later, I get to ask it. Whereas if there's other times I've had the first question several times, and it's just the way it works. You put in the queue when you have a question, and they call on you, and sometimes if I go first, someone else asks a question, and I'm like, man, I want to follow up to that, but I already asked them 4 questions, and it's really hard to get back in the queue, right? So
Yeah.
um, there's a rhythm to it where I think it can
It's like an
almost,
art.
yeah, in a dance in a way, I guess.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I wondered then too, like, because I've asked a couple journalists about this, like, how by the sounds of it, there's positives and negatives by the way you're describing it, but having these Zoom meeting press conferences, is that something where it's wearing thin, or have you just found the right way to your right dance moves to make it work?
No, I don't like them at all. I'd
All
get
right.
rid of them in a heartbeat. But
All
they
right, never
serve a
mind.
purpose, like it's the Zoom meetings are a necessary evil. So, what's good is that the more removed we get, I think the more closer to how it used to be we'll go back. The one good thing is, like you said, I don't ever have to try to talk over anybody, but it was never that big of a problem. I never left a press conference and I just couldn't ask what I wanted to ask. It might have just been I had to wait until the very end. So
Yeah.
I don't like the Zoom because I think you lose a lot when someone's talking to a screen. And I just think, in my opinion, I'm not as personable and social talking to a screen as I am. I might be on the phone, which, that's interesting, but like just talking to a computer screen, even looking at you right now and talking, I know you can't even see me, which is honestly probably how the players feel because we don't
I'm
always turn our mics on either.
I'm
But
trying to make sure I don't even look at the camera too much to not just make it look like I'm staring at you and you can't.
no, but
Just
like it's I think it's harder to get that personal element. And so, there's guys on the team who um they come up there and do it. And like I've talked to those players and I know that they're a little livelier in person than they can be sometimes at these podium settings. And I think that's something that we all lose in this dynamic. And it's a necessary evil. I'm not saying there's no reason to do it or anything like that. I just, when they're gone, I won't miss them one iota.
well, this the last one I kind of took a note here while you were talking about doing these with Steve Eiserman, and you could play the Steve Eiserman role here if you like, but do you have like a white whale question, either one that he's yet to answer or one that you're saving for like that perfect moment, and you could say yeah and just keep on rolling.
I don't know if there's like one question. There's topics I'd love to ask about. But I think those are all things that I really want to ask from a place of retrospective almost.
Okay.
They're things that like I'll want to hear his reflections on 10 years from now.
Right.
Um, More so than things I want to necessarily ask like today. Now, would I love to know? There's always things I want to know that I just know it's not even worthwhile to ask, right? Like I'd love to know, like, oh, like what are your plans for this player long term? Um, but he's never going to answer that, and you have to know that mentally going in. Like
Right.
you got to ask. You get limited opportunity to ask someone a question. You got to actually give yourself a chance at getting an answer. So there's things that I'd love to ask everyone involved in the Red Wings organization, but a lot of them are things that I want to ask them in 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like what how cool is it that Cider and Edmondson are competing for the Norris every year? Like,
Well, or more so just like be honest, like
yeah, right.
what did you think you were getting here? Like on that day, like how high would you have taken this guy? Like did you know what you were getting? Like that kind of stuff, right? Like how long did you realistically think this was going to take when you took over? And these are questions I don't even know that he could give a real answer to today, even if he wanted to. But I think there's a perspective that comes with having gone through something. Let's say they do win a Stanley Cup, right?
Right.
And the year is 2031 or whatever. And then yeah, like I ask him a question and then you can kind of say now that this worked, let's let's
Yeah,
dig into it. You know what I mean? Those are the kind of things that
exactly.
I envision, wanting to ask, but they're things that haven't even happened yet. And yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but
No, it absolutely does. Because I mean, I make the joke about Cider and Edmondson, but then like thanks to like ice hockey gifts, we can watch Edmondson highlights
that's
all
right.
day, every day.
Shout out to him, Robert. What's up?
Absolutely. I it's one of those things where of course we're just looking at highlights, but even now, like I get why you wouldn't want to ask the question now because you're probably gonna get a silly answer from Steve. But it's like, did you really think like when you drafted him, we're getting these quotes, right? From the SHL coverage of guys saying, wow, this guy looks like Nicholas Lidstrom right now, which was crazy. I don't want to get too deep into that because I think that was a guy who was just excited at the time. But I mean, you could ask those questions now and just kind of be like, even a couple of months ago when you draft the kid, you weren't thinking he was going to be first pairing for Lunda and look this good and putting in scoring chances and skating like this.
Exactly. And then, everyone has their truth serum questions, right? But yeah, I think the retrospectives are the ones that I look forward to someday, and just hearing, even like Chris Draper, like he's the guy who scouts these guys, right? Like,
right.
What was it actually about? And Steve, I think, did play a big role with Sider, but like, for everything I've heard, but like, okay, so Steve with Sider or Chris Draper with Lucas Raymond, like, what was it that you actually saw? Like, I'm not talking about like hockey sense or size or all these traits. I'm talking about like, do you remember the moment, or do you remember the time that you were like, I think this guy is actually going to be a player, and be a really good player? And I'm sure there's a bunch of them, but just those are the things that, I don't know. I had John U. Bacon as a professor at Michigan, and he used to have this saying, opportunities matter, moments matter. And it's left like a big impression on me, because it's really true. It's like there's all these little things you can point to, whether it's in your own life or whether it's in the history of sport. And there's these moments that they might be really small, but they have this ripple, or there's this thing you saw or this memory you had, and it made this impression, and it carried over. And I think that's very true. And so those are, I love, there's an old joke about sports writers where it's like, sports writers in a post-game press conference, and he asked the coach, were there any moments in this game? And it's a kind of a accurate reflection of how we kind of fish for these things. But that is a trope that is true of me, and I'm always interested to know those little moments, those little finer things that became bigger in meaning or whatever.
Guys, Draftkings gave us a hockey ad spot to read this week, but hockey is back, and DraftKings Sportsbook has an unbelievable offer to celebrate the greatest sport on ice. New customers can bet just $1 on any hockey game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a goal. Doesn't matter if it's a one-time clapper or a deft deflection, however they light the lamp, you win. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes. It's all season long with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports Contest. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So, to play sportsbook stuff, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code THPN, throw down $1 on any hockey game, and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a goal. This week, one puck in the net gets you a big win with promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only, new customers only, minimum $5 deposit, $1 wager required, one per customer, restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in Indiana, call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. That's an incredible way to look at it. I know it's for me, and like me talking about, wanting to ask about these journalism questions. I think that's me trying to kind of create some of those for myself, because I'm always looking for that motivation, and I do really appreciate you, kind of, indulging me here.
My pleasure, deep. Man. I'm happy to nerd out whenever.
Fantastic. Well, let's nerd out about some Red Wings hockey.
Let's do it.
You were just talking about asking a coach jokingly about some moments, but I think Blashill still kind of went in that direction this week on your last article, talking about, or maybe was that just one of your tweets, but talking about, no, it was your last article, the 10 moments. I think he was, that might not be verbatim, but he was trying to look for 10 spots in Raymond's game two games ago.
Well, no, it was so that was in Traverse City, and I had asked him,
Gotcha.
What are you going to be looking for from Lucas in the preseason to know that he's ready to play to know whether he's ready to play in the NHL? And he kind of made the comment like, he needs to be really impactful, and he thought he had the best offensive play of the red and white game, but it wasn't 10 of them. It was one of them. And I don't think it was about the number 10. I think it was about him saying, I know he can do this, but I want to see him do this routinely, right?
Right.
And so I included that quote in a story a couple articles ago to show like, hey, look, on Saturday night, Raymond made like 4 or 5 of them. So like he's clearly making progress. And then he comes out on Monday, and I think he really might have made 10 of them. Like, I mean, it was like, there's nothing about the number 10 to be clear, but it's just like,
Right.
it really was that routine in that Monday night game. I don't know if you saw the same thing I saw, but it just looked like this guy was doing something every time he was on the ice.
Yeah, it's for me, it's the easiest way to put it is it's must-watch TV already for me. And that's something I hate to sound like I only give that honor to so many people, but if I could equate it, I think the last time I said that was probably Justin Verlander, where every time he was pitching, I don't care what I was doing, I was making sure when he was playing for the Tigers, I was making sure I was in front of my TV and watching him pitch. But now for me, it's got to be Raymond, and probably from the Red Wings perspective before that, for me personally, was Pavel Datsyuk, and I'm not, like we don't want to go too deep into hyperbole here, but it's just one of those things that if you based it off of what we just saw in that last game, and take the other quote you had from Blashill where he said, is the competition was a little bit lower, but that's what he's playing against. That's his only option is to play those guys, and he played well. And if that is how we're going to base, our first opinions on Lucas Raymond is what we've seen so far, I don't know how anybody could look at that and not say that the next opportunity to watch Lucas Raymond isn't must-watch TV. And that's what it is for me. I'll throw it down this way. I did have my 5 questions to open the preseason. I thought we could run through those, but let's just go right to the Lucas Raymond one. And I'll give away my answer to this question was no. But I said, can Lucas Raymond play himself into an absolute roster spot? So this was me recording a week and a half ago. I said no. I said we're saving an entry-level contract season. We want to see him develop. And at that time, I said you'd have to see, and I went way too deep in how many points we need to see per night, because clearly
2 points per game.
Right, 2 points a game looks pretty sweet. But yeah, let me bring it back to that question. And we'll adjust. And I think you put out an article today that answered this question, but I'll throw it to you from my own words. Did Lucas Raymond play himself into an absolute roster spot?
I don't think it's happened absolutely yet. I really think he's on his way though. Like, the preseason's not over. And so that was one of the things Jeff Blashill said yesterday was like, they don't have to make that decision yet. And I think he's dead right about that. Like, why would you make that decision when you still have more things to come, more data to gain? But I'll tell you this, if he keeps looking like he did on Monday night, I don't understand how he couldn't be, because he looks like one of their 3 or 4 best forwards right now. Yeah. And like, I wrote this yesterday. It's the hardest part of the preseason is not overreacting, and you become so cautious as a reporter that you don't want to overreact, right? So even Saturday night, he's great. And when I write my lineup projection, I keep Bobby Ryan in there. I keep discipline to what I just saw was their NHL practice group, and it had Bobby Ryan in it and Lucas Raymond not. So I stayed disciplined on Saturday night. And as I'm watching this Monday, it's like, I don't know that I can stay disciplined against this. This is that good.
Yeah.
Now it's not over, and that's the key. Is like, but if I was projecting where it goes today, I think I might have to put Lucas Raymond in there, because unless he slows down, I mean, he might. Like, certainly 2 points per game is not normal. But it's not even the points. It's just the chances, and like, he's making high level chances that aren't even going in the net. And so, like, it's, to me, like, I think he's on his way is the best way I can put it. I don't think it's set in stone. I think he could certainly end up not there if the next 2 games are just kind of okay. But, I don't know why we would think that they're going to be just okay with what we've seen in the last 6 days from him. So I think he's on his way. I'm not going to say it's done yet, but I I don't know what else he could have done.
And I mean, I would go as far to say too that he's actually looked better as the games have
I
gone on
agree. I
too,
agree with
and
you.
the competition has taken a step up too. So it's passing the eyeball test. I mean, the analytics.
Really
Prashant was
good.
throwing them out there last night. Yeah, after the
Yes.
first period, and it was insane to see the gap. I mean, not to take anything away from how anybody else was playing, but he really played above and
Well,
beyond
yeah,
everybody
and like
else.
the one period is a super small sample because that's
Right.
when it's one period, you're really with the way hockey analytics are configured, one shift can do that, right? Like one great shift, you can have a zero point 0.4 expected goals for shift, and that's going to give you an unreal, expected goals for percentage for a period. And frankly, one shift can make a huge difference in your expected goals for a game, positive or negative. What I'm interested in is the fact that after 5 Red Wings preseason games, 3 for Raymond, he is the number one forward on the team in expected goals for percentage. That's still a small sample. No one would take you seriously talking about a 3-game sample of anything, but that's
Right.
all the preseason has to offer. It's all we have to go on, and it's the best forward on the team. It's narrowly ahead of Robbie Fabry, who Jeff Blashill has been praising like crazy.
Yep.
Like, so again, I think he's been one of the 3 or 4 best forwards in the preseason, which was the standard they set. So it's not over. This decision is not. There's still time, and I wouldn't expect the Red Wings to make that decision while they still have time. But
Wait,
man,
and we're in that space right now where I get, you with your writing and me right now, what I'm going to do and ask you some questions, but we get to play that what if game. If
yeah,
this trend continues for Lucas,
I really believe that Lucas Raymond can make the team. So if he doesn't, I don't think it's because they're saving the ELC or they're tanking or anything like that. Like I really think it'll be because they think it's what's better for him and better for them. Now that said, with what we've seen, I don't think that would be the case.
right?
But there's 2 more preseason games left, right? So like that, I guess that's kind of what I'm saying is like if he does what he has been doing for 3 more preseason games, I imagine he'll play in probably 2 of them. If he does what he's been doing for 2 more preseason games, I think he's going to make the team. And if he does what he's been doing for 2 more preseason games and he doesn't make the team, we're absolutely going to ask what more was he going to have to do,
Yeah.
and to what extent they'll answer that one way or the other, I don't know. But I'm betting that if that happens, and I actually don't think that will happen. I think if he does what he's done, I think he's going to make the team. But if for whatever reason he keeps doing what he's been doing and he doesn't make the team, like I think the answer from them would be it's because it's what they think is best for their development. And I would be inclined to believe them that that's what they think. I just would disagree with it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Now I mean, of course, I think I'm leading the witness here. I clearly want Raymond to make this team. I wouldn't ask the question of how do we come at them with torches and pitchforks if he doesn't, if I didn't believe that. So I mean, is there too much more to say about this besides we're super impressed? We think he's making the team. I I don't know. I guess the only thing I'd want to touch on with Lucas
Well,
is
the one thing I'd say about it
yeah,
is Bobby Ryan too, right? I
yeah,
think Bobby Ryan's been really good this preseason, and if there's any pause in my mind about whether Raymond makes it or not, again, if he continues to play like he has, which he still has to go do, it would be in part because I think Bobby Ryan's been really good too. And I wrote this yesterday, like, yes, Lucas Raymond's been really good. Who was the one that finished off the slap pass that he made and made it a goal? Bobby
right,
Ryan. Who had, it was a secondary assist, but it was nonetheless an assist on his power play goal, Bobby Ryan. I think Bobby Ryan's got 4 points in 3 games. Not 6 points in 3 games, but it's still 4 points in 3 games.
right.
And Bobby Ryan is also a really skilled player. He's a veteran. If they want Lucas Raymond, if they have these reservations about wanting Lucas Raymond to maybe develop a little more before he's in the NHL, Bobby Ryan has made it very easy for them to say, well, then what are we going to do on the second line? Oh, right, here's Bobby Ryan, who's playing really well, right? So if I have any pause, it's because I think Bobby Ryan absolutely deserves a roster spot too, based on what we've seen through 3 games. For him too, more time. He's got more to prove. But part of me wonders, is there any way they can get them both on there? And Bobby Ryan's obviously on a tryout contract, so it gets a little trickier there. But like that's kind of the other factor here is that I think Bobby Ryan's been really good. It's not like Lucas Raymond's been their third or fourth best forward, or one of their three or four best forwards, I should say. And Bobby Ryan, Bobby Ryan's not that far behind there if he's behind. Like he's been really good too. I think Raymond's been a little more noticeable, a little more dangerous.
Yeah.
But I also think it's important for us as viewers to recognize that we are looking for Lucas Raymond. So when we talk about how noticeable he's been, in part we're noticing something that we're really, really looking for. And when I watch Bobby Ryan, I see really skilled plays, really smart plays too. So I think they both deserve spots, and that's something that I don't know how that factors into the overall picture.
I did want to ask you about the power play too, and I wanted to ask your opinion because I know there's strategy in it. Obviously, something has changed. The transition between Bilesma to Tunge. But a lot of the success I see on the power play starts with Lucas. And that's sort of a point that's twofold here. Like to kind of double down on if we're looking for Lucas to earn a spot, he looks fantastic 5-on-5. But we've needed help on the power play for such a long time to make it, to hold back, vomiting again, watching a huge drought of power play goals. So it's one of those things. This power play does look great, but I do wonder too if Lucas is playing so well that is one of the major points here that we're missing, and maybe Bilesma's power play wouldn't have been so terrible if he had a Lucas Raymond.
It's definitely possible.
Yeah.
What I will say is I think the movement on the power play of both the puck and the players, to me seems noticeable. But I just think that the
Right.
passing's been so crisp and so, it's going across the slot and not just around the world. Like taking those direct routes and not having to go back to the point with everything.
Yeah.
I think has been huge. And Raymond, you talk about his impact. Like some of these seam passes he's making are legit. Larkin sent one back to him on his goal the other night. And those are such dangerous plays. And how much of it is Alex Tanguay versus how much of it is getting a little swagger going versus how much of it is Lucas Raymond. Like, I don't know that I could honestly parse it for you, but it looks different. That's for sure. And I've felt like, just, this is anecdotal, I couldn't give you a number to prove this. I felt like they're using the bumper and the slot, the guy in the slot, a little more on the power play, which I think is huge. And Prashant and I, who I used to host a podcast with, who I think is one of the smartest people out there about hockey in general, certainly about the Red Wings. Make sure you follow him, Prashant Iyer. He's talked a lot about the Red Wings power play and what he wants to see out of it. And I often defer to him on some of that stuff because I think he knows so much about it, and I think it's something he's been impressed with too. So who gets the credit, I don't know, but I think it's got to have a little to do with everything that you just said.
Yeah, it's definitely it can't make this sort of improvement, and I'm not, nobody could make the argument that Tunge deserves zero credit. But I maybe it's just how floored I am with Lucas, and that's where I want to throw a majority of it. But yeah, let me roll through, and then we'll kind of wrap up here. The other questions I had, you can give me a quick opinion here, but is anybody? I mean, we're finding it tough to fit Lucas Raymond on this roster. So, were there any Griffins you thought that had played well enough to earn a spot? And I'd probably point first to like Taro Hirose, who looks like he could end this with a above 50% expected goals for. He's got a couple of points in 3 games.
I think Hirose looks like an improved player and really an improved version of the guy he's always been, which is, I think, a dynamic power play guy. In my eyes, I still think he's probably best fit as a full timer at the AHL level. But it's not I don't mean any disrespect by that to Taro's game. I think he's a brilliant hockey player. I think he's really skilled. I expect him to be one of the 5 leading scorers in the AHL by points every year that he's in there, for basically from now on. I think he's that dynamic of a offensive talent. I just think there's a speed and strength element to the NHL that it's always going to be a little tough for him at 5-on-5 to make a massive impact, the kind of massive impact that I think he needs to be in a really high profile role to be in the NHL. He probably can't play his game on the 4th line in 10 minutes a night, whatever it might be. I think he's a really high level power player. I think he could help any NHL team's power play. But the power play ultimately is only 8 minutes a night, and so for one unit that might only be 5 minutes a night. And so I don't think Hiroshi's gonna make the Red Wings this year. Would it surprise me though if he plays for the Red Wings this year? Not at all. And I think he'll be a positive contributor when he does. But I think when you look at him probably having to kind of play in the top 6, like I don't see how he would take a spot from Bertuzzi, Zadina, Raymond, or Robbie Fabry,
Next one on the
or Bobby
list.
Ryan, like whether it's Raymond or Ryan, you know what I mean? And again, I think both of those guys should make the Red Wings personally. But
next guy on the list, last one for the forwards is Joe Veleno kind of missing the mark here.
I've actually liked Joe's preseason. Like I know he's not been all over the scoreboard, but he stands out to me, and I think not on the level that obviously a Raymond does, but they're also different guys. So Joe's speed, I think, is a real factor. He's really defensively responsible. This guy looks to me ready to play in the NHL. Do they have a spot for him? Is a great question. I don't know the answer. I think he looks ready to play in the NHL. So if I had to guess right now, we don't know what the status of Michael Rasmussen's injury is. He had a little tweak.
True. Yeah, I remember
and
that.
So, if that spot opens, maybe that's someplace that Joe could fit, or maybe they opt to flex Nemesnikov into the middle, and maybe that's how a spot gets freed up for Bobby Ryan.
And
but one way or the other, like I expect to see Joe Veleno in Detroit at some point this year, whether it's October 16th, I might lean probably not toward predicting it, but I think he's going to play in the NHL this year.
Last question on my 5 to open the preseason was who are our 8 defensemen going to be? And I think it's pretty much set.
Oh yeah, yep. It looks like it to me. I think you're looking at Danny Dekeyser, Philip Hronek, Nick Leddy, Moritz Seider, Mark Stahl, Troy Stetcher, and Jordan Osterley and Gustav Lindstrom, barring an injury.
Here we go. All right. I was going to throw out that list and say, are any of those guys going to miss it? But I think we're on the same page there. You mentioned earlier that Lucas Raymond is leading the way for all forwards in expected goals for percentage. Did you see, according to Natural Stat Trick, I'll throw that out there in case we're looking at different information. Have you noticed who's number 1 overall for the team?
That would be Danny Dekeyser. And
yes.
I think that that's big for them. If Danny Dekeyser, I know people can get down on Danny and hard on Danny Dekeyser, but I really, I know the Red Wings think that he's a really impactful defensive player. And I think that stat that you just mentioned is kind of proof that like the things in Dekeyser's game don't necessarily pop, but that is to me kind of proof that, if you have a 66% expected goals rate, which I think is what his is, you're doing a ton to help your team. Now, in 3 preseason games, yes, I get it. But again, it's better than anybody else did in those 3 preseason games. So that would be absolutely, I cannot overstate how important that would be if Danny Dekeyser is back to being a legit top 4 defenseman for the Red Wings.
Yeah, and I mean, in my own notes here, I threw in there, granted, 0% goals for percentage.
Yeah.
it's still, that's the game we got to play is like, what is he doing on the ice that's bringing up those chances? Because then Corsi and the Fenwick, whichever one you prefer in that regard, he's in the positive. And by that, I mean above 50%. So it's all thumbs up. Thank you so much for coming on. It means the world to me. I hope we can have you on again. I hope this was fun. And next time, I'll try and find some new journalism questions to ask you because that was an absolute blast. And I appreciate you. My pleasure. Happy to do it anytime. And to answer your question there, what it is the expected goals against for Dekeyser are really, really low. So that's to answer the question of what he's doing out there. He's not giving much up. But don't keep your mother-in-law waiting any longer. Yep. Happy to come back anytime. And thanks so much for having me on. Hey, thanks again, man. Have a good one. Take care. Yep, you too. Bye. We're going to be doing the drawing for 2 Red Wings tickets. Detroit Red Wings against the Calgary Flames, October 21st at 7:30 p.m. Of course, we've had our contest pinned to our Twitter page. We needed you to like, retweet, follow us, and comment on the tweet who you were going to be taking with you. And of course, I'd no foul if there wasn't a Twitter handle, but I had to be fair to everybody that followed the rules. So I only have 50 people who got the rules correct. So for you 50 people, we're going to pull up a random number generator. You are already entered into an Excel spreadsheet. So what we're going to do is run that random number generator, make the connection with the Excel spreadsheet, and that will be our winner for the contest. And I wanted to do that live with you guys right now. So we're going to pull up the random number generator. As you can see right now, it says number 8. We have a min-max of a min of 1, max of 10. We're going to change that max to 50. I just wanted you guys to see that this is a brand new, fresh, random number generator. Got that number changed between 1 and 50. We're going to hit generate here. We'll have our number. Boom, number 15. All right, so let's stop sharing the old Google page, the old Google random number generator. And now we need to pull up the Excel spreadsheet. And we will add that to our stream. You guys are now seeing the same thing that I am seeing. We are looking for number 15, and that is Miss D at 313doll. Miss D, you are the winner of our 2 Red Wings tickets, going up against the Calgary Flames coming up. Woo, we're getting close. We're going to be 2 weeks out, so you got plenty of time to get, I don't know, babysitters ready to go. You got time to get your drive ready to go. You got time to plan out where you're going to be doing your pre-gaming. But Miss D, congratulations. We will be reaching out on Twitter, and thank you so much. Thank you so much to everybody that entered. We will be doing more giveaways. Like I said, previous episodes, we do want to expand all of our giveaways to make sure that not only folks in the Detroit metro area are included, but everybody can sign in and try and win. Whatever we give away next. We'll figure that out. But again, congratulations to Miss D. Thank you to everybody that entered, and have a good one.